All right, everyone, let's just get started so we can save enough of time for questions at the very end. I always, whenever I do this talk, there's lots of questions about different aspects of LinkedIn. I really want to answer them all. So, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Roshni, and I'm the executive director of our doctoral and postdoctoral life design. And I know we have a lot of you from every possible discipline across the university. And so when I provide you with examples today, I'm going to try my best to capture everyone's discipline. But if I give you an example, you can always apply it to your discipline as well. So I've been fortunate to work alongside many of our PhD students and postdocs over the past few years. And oftentimes this conversation about LinkedIn comes up. And LinkedIn as part of someone's personal brand also comes up. So we'll touch upon what that means. I just want to share that I've tailored this presentation to be super straightforward and actionable, and I'm not going to bore you or overwhelm you with endless details about LinkedIn. I want to focus on what truly matters, and I want to give you clear takeaways and address common queries about LinkedIn, and I'll share what my 3 goals for today is as well. Your engagement today is super valuable. So if something sparks a question, put it in the chat box. It's right in front of me. And if you'd rather we just save time for the end, we'll open it up for discussion as well. So before we dive in, I've set 3 main goals for our time together. And as we conclude, I'll touch base to ensure that we've hit those marks. So if we're ready to get started, give me a thumbs up in the chat, and then I'll start my next slide. Okay, thumbs up. Thank you so much. So my 3 goals here today are, I know for many, LinkedIn can be a super big maze. It's a social media platform, and with using a professional social media platform, it can be a little bit intimidating. On the flip side, if we reframe that thinking, it can be a professional networking powerhouse. So, my first goal for you today is to dispel any apprehensions or misconceptions that we might have about using LinkedIn. And by the end of the session, I hope to make the platform feel more accessible and intuitive for you. And then, second, once we've addressed any initial concerns, I want to dive into the practicalities. How do you use LinkedIn effectively? What features should I be aware of? So we'll walk through all these functionalities, and I want to make sure that you're equipped to make the most of what LinkedIn has to offer. And lastly, I want to show you its benefits as a career catalyst. And we'll talk about this word value a lot in terms of career development. So whether you're looking to network, whether you want to find job opportunities, or maybe you want to stay up to date with industry trends, or maybe you want to put your thoughts out there, we're going to cover all these topics. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about my own personal experience using LinkedIn along the way. But you'll hear this a lot. If you use LinkedIn, it's part of your personal brand, or it can really create value for you in whatever that personal brand is. And for me, I have a great visual for what a brand is, and it looks like this, a mosaic. So imagine each piece of a mosaic as a different aspect of your professional and personal life. Your skills, your experiences, your values, your achievements, your personality traits. Individually, these pieces might be small or insignificant, but when you put them together, they create a unique and cohesive and beautiful picture that represents who you are. And for me, I think of it as my career signature. It's what I'm known for. What is my area of expertise? What are my accomplishments? What are my unique approaches to my professional life? My personal brand also reflects my values. What do I care about? What is my work ethic? How do I communicate both in person and in online situations? And my mosaic is dynamic, it's evolving, and it's growing as I gain new experiences, as I grow in my career. So while you hear LinkedIn in the context of personal branding, I just wanted to share what my idea of personal branding is, because when you start to use it, you might find your own version of what it means and how you can use it as a good tool. A few years ago, it was only 2017 that I was at a crossroads in my life. I was facing challenges as an international postdoc, and it was a whirlwind professionally and personally. I was stepping into motherhood. I realized that I hadn't spent time articulating what my next career step would be. And I Googled how to find a job. And in 2017, LinkedIn kept coming up as a resource. So I made my first LinkedIn profile very hesitantly in 2017. I was just looking for a tool that could help me explore career paths, connect with people, and ultimately I wanted to secure a job that resonated with my goals. I didn't say anything for the first year. And in 2018, I accidentally found my job at the NIH, which was helping postdocs with their careers, on a LinkedIn post that I didn't know my job even existed. So I learned about a new title, learned about a new career path completely. Then I got my first job, and I was too hesitant as a professional to say anything on LinkedIn because I felt like maybe there'd be repercussions if I opened my mouth or posted anything or liked. So I kept silent until I accidentally found my current job on LinkedIn in 2019 as well. And that's when I started leaning a little bit into it and I honed my approach. And as LinkedIn evolved, the dividends for my own career became evident. I'll share that with you over time. I started building connections. I started finding jobs for others, started connecting people to other people. Then I got invited for podcasts or keynote talks and things like that. So for me, that word value has really resonated in my use of LinkedIn. And I just wanted to share this timeline because again, it doesn't have to be a big move when you're joining LinkedIn that you now have to start saying something. You can simply use it as a job encyclopedia, as a tool to connect one-on-one with folks via DMs. And I'll show you exactly how I would do that if I were you as well. So let's really look at what I mean by value. LinkedIn over the years has become a treasure trove of insights, updates, and knowledge. It's where I learned from industry leaders. I kept abreast of trends. I discovered new perspectives. I started adding connections, but rather than saying I started collecting and curating connections, I started having meaningful conversations with folks who live on in different parts of the world, but who use LinkedIn. It's where I found collaborators, where I find speakers for events, where I created mentorship programs, and it was a it was an opportunity for me to not just get valuable opportunities for myself, but valuable opportunities where I can connect you as students with other folks like alumni, so on and so forth. So for me, an additional piece of value, it's empowered me to become a thought leader and share my insights, comment on relevant articles. And it's a two-way street, and it's not a transactional as we think. And I'll share stories and snippets of how it goes beyond just a transactional aspect. And I'll show you with examples as well. So remember this word value, where if you're a student or a postdoc right now, it may be a moment where you're seeking value from your interactions on LinkedIn, but a few years from now, you'll be providing value to a new, fresh student who just started in their doctoral program, who is exploring career paths. So value goes both ways. It's a two-way street. So with that out of the way, where I talked about personal branding, how LinkedIn has helped me, and I'll show you exactly how it helps others too. I've talked about the word value. Let's get into the practicalities of it straight away. The nuts and bolts of setting up a good LinkedIn profile. In today's talk, I'm not going to go into every component, the operations and the logistics of LinkedIn. I'm going to focus on the key essentials, and then I'm going to show you how to use it. So there's a couple of things that I want you to focus on your very first LinkedIn page, the facade, the outer cover of your LinkedIn, and that is your professional headshot, your headline, and your about section. So first and foremost, it's a professional social media platform. So just like any other professional social media platform, you have a picture, you have opportunities to present your highlight reel. And I have generally played around with what professional means to me. Before this picture, I had one where it was a very casual looking professional picture. But the point is, profiles that have pictures are 10 times more likely to receive messages and engagement. So if you haven't already, invest in a good, clear headshot that represents you authentically. I don't subscribe to the notion that there has to be a singular way of standing and posing for a professional headshot. It's whatever you're comfortable with that shows you as you want to be seen. I taken the extra step to add a cover photo in my background that really encapsulates what my brand is, which is education and helping people and careers. So this is a space to showcase a little bit more about you. So perhaps you're a scientist and you've captured a nice microscopy image and you want to put that as your cover photo. Or maybe you're an engineer who works on sound waves. Maybe you're an educator in a classroom. So you can be as creative and imaginative as possible, because you can't really do that on your resume. So LinkedIn allows you to do that with your creative expression of who you are as a professional. Next, let's go to your headline section, okay? When you see anyone's LinkedIn profile, the first thing you notice is their picture, their cover photo, and a little bit of a headline or a little career signature or a little handshake. So think of this as your digital handshake, your brief moment to introduce yourself in this like big sea of networking and big sea of people. It's often the first line people read, and it's prominently displayed whenever you comment, post, or even when somebody simply hovers over your name. So again, it's important because it occupies prime real estate to your profile. It's like a handshake, and it's how you want the world to know who you are and how you introduce yourself. Because a well-crafted headline can pique the interest of a visitor, and then they'll read the rest of your profile. And by visitor, I mean an alumni, someone who wants to hire you, someone who's interested in your work. It could be anybody, a recruiter. You just want them to read further down on your LinkedIn as well. And just as a side note, 95% of recruiters are using LinkedIn as a recruiting tool. So they're all out there. It's your chance to showcase your unique value proposition. I'll give you examples of what a good headline looks like and what a very good headline looks like. Many of you here will probably have the default LinkedIn headline, which is PhD student or postdoc in whatever discipline. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's 90% of people that I'm speaking with. It's just the default headline. And it doesn't say anything about you, because there's several other folks who also are PhD students or postdocs at Johns Hopkins. Another tip when you're crafting your headline, you could incorporate relevant keywords from your field, and that can make your profile more discoverable and underscore your expertise even more. At the end of the day, your headline should be clear, to the point, and while it's important to be descriptive, avoid overloading it with too many details or jargon that might not immediately be understandable to a broader audience. And by a broader audience, I mean non-academics, recruiters, folks like that. So I'm going to give you some examples, because all of y'all belong to all sorts of different backgrounds. So I'm going to share examples from each discipline. Most folks will say, I'm a postdoc at Johns Hopkins, a postdoc at NCI. But instead, you could say, bridging genomics and oncology, computational biologist at NCI. Or you could say, I love connecting dots, data, and people, computational biologist at NCI. Much better, because now I know what your values are and what your skill sets are, and you're leveraging your computational tools. Perhaps you're a early childhood education researcher and you're an educator. Maybe your headline should instead say, data-driven educator, improving effectiveness of STEM programs. And that's much better of a value proposition than simply stating your role. Okay, maybe you're a PhD student in nursing, and you could say, nursing graduate student specializing in public health, passionate advocate for LGBTQ health equality, aspiring to influence healthcare policies. Maybe you're a public health professional and you want to say, championing community health initiatives, bridging the gap between research and real-world impact. Perhaps you're a medieval literature scholar, and maybe a better way of saying that is medieval literature expert, because it's such a niche thing that you are an expert at, blending historical insights with modern advising techniques, dedicated to guiding students on their academic journey. So you see the difference between the dark blue and the light blue. It is a much more captivating way of introducing yourself that you can apply not only on your LinkedIn profile, but in your resumes and also during interviews as well. If I were to divide it up, I would say, here are some ideas. By the way, I'm going to send you a ton of resources after this. I would divide it up into an expertise or your role, your unique value proposition, your specialization or interest, and then followed up with what your aspiration or your impact goal is. So if you follow sort of this formula, then you can start constructing a good LinkedIn headline. By the way, feel free to put your questions in the chat box. So now that people have seen your LinkedIn headline, they're interested in your profile, the next section that is 90%, 99% empty is the about section. This is a good spot to personalize your profile by sharing what your motivations are, what your passions are. You can clearly outline your current responsibilities, the scope of your graduate work or your postdoctoral work, and it helps viewers understand your professional standing and expertise. You can frame your past. You can give a bit of context. In my past role or in my previous experience, you can share that. You can even highlight your accomplishments, such as led a team of 5 graduate students to do XYZ or improved efficiency by X%. And this provides concrete evidence of your capabilities. So there are many ways in which you can tell your professional story, and you can all go check out my LinkedIn profile. I don't mind, but I have it in a way that really articulates my values. What do I care about? Who do I care about? And how do I want to apply my skills to my next role? Some people have their story written as third person. For example, it'll say Roshni Rao is the executive director. I prefer talking about it as if I'm speaking, and I say I am in my LinkedIn About section. Could I talk about balancing technical and non-technical language here? You talked about that a bit in your value statement. So it really depends, Michael, on the industry that you're trying to get in. For instance, let's say that you're a mechanical engineer who wants to work in the mechanical engineering field in industry. And in that case, I would gravitate towards being a little bit more technical and talk about skills that the industry folks are going to be interested in. If you're a mechanical engineer pivoting into education, for instance, doing career development, then I would talk about my transferable skills, such as quantify your presidency as the GRO chair, quantify those aspects, make it student-centered, but leverage the fact that you're very quantifiable and data-driven, in leave out the heavy technical parts of the mechanical engineering that you'll no longer sort of be honing in. So it really depends on what your job goal is. Sometimes we don't know where we want to go and we want to balance both. I would say you can say them all in your LinkedIn headline. For instance, you can say mechanical engineer specializing in fluid dynamics. And then you can say passionate about student education or career development or professional development. So you can use the line on your LinkedIn headline to show all aspects of you. You don't have to pick some one aspect of you. You can articulate them all. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. But for the most part, whether you're balancing technicality or not depends on the industry that you're going into. So if I were to break down the LinkedIn About section, you can start with an introduction, a very compelling opening about yourself, highlight your professional background, as 1 or 2 key milestones, your achievements in your career trajectory that you're proud of and you want people to know. Mention your skills, your expertise, talk about your goals and aspirations, and then end with a nice call to action. Encourage your connections to specify how they can reach out to you. You'll see mine, it says, please reach out. I'd love to collaborate, or I'd love to discuss any future opportunities. So that is a little bit welcoming as well. I often, students will say, well, I don't have all the expertise and the skills. And I have to remind you that you do, because your graduate work has lent itself towards establishing a variety of skills, whether that's communication, professional development, leadership, technical aptitude. You do have it. You just have to take a moment to articulate that to yourself, and then start to brainstorm ways in which you can articulate that on your LinkedIn profile, in your resume, cover letter, and in interviews as well. Now, other components of your LinkedIn profile, again, I'm not going to harp too much about the structural elements of LinkedIn. I will provide you with resources that will address that. I want to go into how to use LinkedIn, but there are other sections similar to your Instagram highlight reel or your featured photos on Facebook. You have a featured section on LinkedIn as well, where you can add articles, videos, anything that you wrote, any papers, you can now add them to your featured section on your LinkedIn. Think of it as a moving, walking, dynamic resume that brings visibility to your profile and offers value to your connections. You can infuse these with keywords from your industry, especially let's say you're going to consulting, that you want to focus a couple skills like communication, people skills, quantifiables, deliverables. You want to start incorporating the lingo of those jobs as well. And you can do that in your featured section through different articles, so on and so forth. Okay. And the rest is the experience section in your LinkedIn. Again, once you have a good solid resume, good to go, you can simply cut, copy, paste the resume and put it into your research, your experience section on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has all sorts of new tools now. There's the AI component that's embedded into LinkedIn where it can create posts for you if you provide it with prompts. But there's also the skill section at the bottom that I didn't have in 2017, where you can, for each section of your experience, you can add skills that qualify you as a very top candidate. So go explore LinkedIn. Again, you take your time with it. You don't have to go today and start using it. Just explore, observe, and then you'll see that there are low stakes ways to make small changes in your LinkedIn profile today. Every time I give the LinkedIn talk, I know there are certain questions that folks have, which is, should I focus on getting recommendations on my LinkedIn profile from my friends or my colleagues or my bosses? And I'd say at the very bottom, there are these options where you can have public recommendations. It's nice to have, but it's not make or break at all. Most people don't care to make the effort to ask people to recommend them. It's nice to have, but you don't have to have them. In the past, LinkedIn had, endorsements for different skills. Now that that skills portion is already attached to your experience section, you don't have to have 1,000 people endorse you for a particular skill, since skills keep changing and evolving and they're dynamic. When I was a postdoc, my skills were all RT-PCR and all sorts of technical skills, which I deleted from my profile anyway. How detailed should I be? If you're writing an entire encyclopedia and thesis, it's ineffective because no one's reading through that. So focus on being crisp and articulating what you want to articulate in a very streamlined and concise way. This is an exercise in communication. Communicating your professional skills through LinkedIn is another art form in the form of communication. So if you want to be effective communicator, focus on the key message that you're trying to articulate. What metrics should I pay attention to? A lot of folks say, I feel really uncomfortable when I get a notification saying someone has viewed my LinkedIn profile. And in the world of LinkedIn, when you're on the job search, when someone is viewing your profile, is a good thing because it could be a recruiter. So if you have some sort of activity going on in your LinkedIn, that's a good thing. Pay attention to those metrics. If you feel uncomfortable that you're going on other people's LinkedIn and they can see that you've been on their LinkedIn, you can always go to the settings and you can change it to like incognito mode, where you don't see who's on your profile and they don't see if you've gone on their profile. So play around with the settings in the background and work according to your comfortability level. Okay, so far so good. If that's so far so good, let me know and I'll continue to how to actually use it, which is what most folks want to know. Okay, you can use a thumbs up signal if you want me to proceed. Otherwise, I'll proceed on my own in like 5 seconds. All right. Okay, great. Thank you for the go ahead. I'm going to talk about how to use LinkedIn in the form of 3 scenarios, because I know everyone here is on different levels of using LinkedIn. In this example, I'm going to focus on a grad student. Let's say they're in chemical engineering and they are thinking about a career in cosmetic industry. They have a basic LinkedIn profile, but they don't really use it. It's there, but they haven't logged in for a while. And they have always found networking to be very icky and uncomfortable. But they have one goal, and that's to expand their career path awareness and start making connections, because they're thinking ahead and they're thinking in the next 2 to 3 years, I'll be on the job market. I just want to expand. I just want to learn what career paths are open to me. Again, when I'm giving you this example and I'm showing you, apply it to your own discipline, whether you're in public health or school of medicine or engineering, doesn't matter, education or humanities. Okay. So the first thing that I would do if I want to use LinkedIn to expand my network and to play around and learn about career paths is, first of all, complete your LinkedIn profile, focus on a headline, make it as complete as possible. Second, I tell people that your best friend in LinkedIn, based on how the tool is built, is the search bar. It allows you to do a whole bunch of things, and I'll demonstrate with video in a second. But let's say that this student is interested in cosmetics, and that's the extent of the career path that they know about. I want to work in the cosmetics field. So you can put the word cosmetics in the search bar. And then what happens? Several things can happen. You can filter on people, and whoever has the word cosmetics on their LinkedIn profile will show up. You can filter on connections. So if you're already connected, people in your own connections, a second degree and third degree connections show up. You can filter by location. Say you only want to work in the San Francisco area or Pennsylvania or whatnot. Filter by location. You can filter on company because you are aware that a speaker came to the department and they were from L'Oreal. So you can filter on the company as well. So that search and filter tool is a good way of narrowing down your search and being more strategic on LinkedIn. So once I filter on people, United States, and say L'Oreal, for example, a whole bunch of people show up. What the information this gives me, the data that I'm focusing on, is the person's headline, where they're located, and what is their title of their position. This is how I accidentally landed on my job, right? I didn't even know it existed. But exploring LinkedIn as a search tool, as a learning tool, allows you to get that kind of information. So in this regard, I'm very interested by this person's title, Research and Innovation Director for Marion. And she has an MBA background, but when I go to her profile, I see that she also has a PhD. So I'm very intrigued by that profile. What do I do? What I do is I go to Marianne's profile and I say connect and I add a note. It's always nice to add a note because folks are always getting LinkedIn requests from random folks. And this is, you wouldn't just walk up to a stranger and start asking for stuff, right? You would introduce yourself. So similarly, you might say, hi, Marianne, I'm a PhD student focused on analytical testing. Your career pathway in R&D in cosmetic industry intrigued me and prompted me to reach out. Would you be open to connecting on LinkedIn? Hit send and send the message and connect with Marianne. A couple of things will happen inevitably when you're on LinkedIn. One is you take that effort to find someone and you add a connection request and nothing happens. They don't respond. Either they don't use LinkedIn, they're too busy, or they forgot, or they don't want to add you. It happens all the time. Or they connect with you and you say, thank you so much for connecting, and you leave it at that. Or you want to actually chat with them and learn about their job and do what we call the informational interview. So then you might want to take that turn. Let's say you want to have an informational interview. What do you say? Hi, Marian. Thank you for connecting me on Thank you for connecting with me on LinkedIn. Right now, I'm considering a career pathway in cosmetic industry. So you're reiterating what you just said. Would you be open to connecting for a 30-minute chat over Zoom? I'm fairly flexible this whole month. I look forward to hearing your thoughts as time allows. It's super boundaried, it's respectful, it's flexible on our part. I'm not asking for much. I'm only asking for a 30-minute chat. And then what could happen? Either she responds and you're setting a date for the informational interview, or she doesn't respond. And in that case, you can follow up after 2 weeks, because I get so many LinkedIn messages sometimes that it's overwhelming and I just don't have the time to respond. But if someone follows up with me, it's back on my mind and I'm able to do it. I want to help. And that's what most people want to do as well. So you could say something like, hi, Marian, I'm sure you're swamped, but I wanted to quickly follow up with you if you're open to talking with me for 30 minutes virtually. Make it low stakes, follow up. And then she might not respond, or she responds. If she does respond and you have an informational interview coming up, come prepared with a set of questions that you cannot Google. Have a conversation by starting and stopping on time. Take notes and then follow up later. So this is how the LinkedIn networking can feel less transactional, because you're just having conversations with people and they're just sharing information. So hi, Marian. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today, because you already chatted with her. I appreciated hearing about your journey and what led you to where you are. And in the end, you can say, I look forward to being in touch with you and taking you up on your offer to connect me with some scientists at L'Oreal down the line. Remind Marian that during conversation, she said, oh, whenever you're ready for the job search, just let me know. All the best to you and your family. Very polite, very nice. You've not asked for much. And Marian feels like she's done a great thing by helping someone and having a conversation. Many folks say, well, networking is time consuming. It's 2 minutes of a message to say thank you. And then people say, but how do I keep in touch with folks? And I'll say, this relationship that you just established with Marian may not have immediate results like in the next 6 months or 1 year, but 4 years from now, when you're on the job search or your friends on the job search, you can always connect to Marian. So what I've done over the years with some of my key contacts is simply send a message like this. Wanted to wish you a happy holidays. I hope you have downtime to rest and recharge. I just wanted to share that I love seeing all the awesome things that you're accomplishing at L'Oreal. I'm in the middle of prepping for my qualifying exams, and I look forward to taking my exam in early spring. Warm wishes. You're just exchanging information, and like it's sending a text message to an old friend or an old contact, just checking in. So these are kinds of low stakes way in which this is all part of networking, but it doesn't have to feel like it's a big ask on your part. And there's some other ways in which you can keep the connection going. If they are posting stuff, if they are hiring, you can reshare it. You can engage with their content by clicking a like. You can send them interesting articles, or you can also connect people to people. So let's say Marian just got laid off from L'Oreal, God forbid, and you know of some other person in your network in the cosmetic industry that you've built up, there's a chance where you can connect Marian to that person as well. So it's again here, I'm talking about that exchange of value. It's not one directional at all. For instance, I had a student whose aunt is a professor at our university. And she wrote to me and said, oh, my aunt said I should reach out to you. And she's in University of Texas. And she's looking for health policy and management internships. And I remember that I went to school with someone who does exact same thing in San Francisco. So I chatted with the person. I connected them to my friend from university. And then I got this message. Dear Dr. Rao, I'm writing this email to express my gratitude for your advice and connecting me with Dr. Sharma. With both your guidance and help, I have signed the offer to be part of their internship cohort. I appreciate your help. So all I did was simply remember that someone in my network did health policy and management, DM'd each other, and then they set up their own chat. So I think I gave value in that moment, and that person received that value. So that's also part of LinkedIn networking. So in doing this, in this scenario, this student will slowly and steadily grow their LinkedIn connections. And they use it to their comfort level. They're not doing anything public facing that they don't want to do. And they realize that conversations don't have to be performative or weird or icky or transactional. And they've met their goals, which is to expand their career path awareness by exploring the platform. And they started making connections little by little. So that's one scenario. In another scenario, you're a PhD student who already knows that you're ready to apply for jobs. You have already done the informational interviews. You already know a path. You think, I'm going to the industry. I know I want to do that. And then you've done the informational interview and you know that you want to go into industry. And your goal is to learn about open roles and start applying and get the job. So that's the scenario here. Let me answer this question in the audience. Do you recommend keeping communications to LinkedIn or do you transition to email at some point? It totally depends on the rapport that you and that person have built. Sometimes this is how my conversations will go. Please send me an email. They'll write to me on LinkedIn. I say, please send me an email because I'm better at checking my email than I am LinkedIn. And then the conversation transitions to email. Or sometimes the person does not use LinkedIn because they're not an active LinkedIn user. But when you connect with them, when you click on contact info, their email pops up. You can take that conversation to email instead. So you can reach out to them over email as well. So it really depends how that conversation went. Most folks are comfortable just conversing on LinkedIn, but you can always ask and say, is it better to chat over LinkedIn or would you rather prefer we chat, exchange emails? So you can always ask that question as well. Okay, generally, what is the proper window of time ahead of graduation to reach out to people and begin networking? If you're a year or more from graduating, would it be too early? It's never too early. You could be in your first year as a doctoral student and you're building connections, and those connections materialize 5 years from now. What I don't want you to be in the situation was where I was, which was 3 months, my visa was ticking and I didn't have a job. I didn't know what career paths were. So I really had to do it and do it fast and cram like all that stress and that worry into like 3 months. So realistically speaking, if you're an international student, take up to a year before your job search to really understand where you want to head, because your entire visa, your timing, all depends on understanding and self-advocating for where you want to go with your career. And if you don't have any like restrictions with visa, a nice sweet spot to apply for jobs, I'm not talking about building connections, apply for jobs will be anywhere between 6 to 8 months prior to your graduation date. So to answer your question, Michael, when's the proper window to make connections? Anytime. I'm still making connections. I don't have any agenda. I'm not looking for a job, but if I find someone interesting, I'm still doing it, because 10 years from now, that could materialize into something, or I might be able to better serve you as as a student. So do it now. There's no timing really to make connections. Okay, so let's say you are 6 months away, 7 months away, you have no restrictions, maybe even a year away, and you want to start putting your applications out and you want to really leverage LinkedIn as a place where you can connect with recruiters, alumni, industry professionals, so on and so forth. This is the scenario we're working with. So what do? So you start with the jobs tab, because there are multiple things that are going to come out of me looking through the jobs tab. You will learn more about roles you didn't know existed. You will look at descriptions of these jobs that will blow your mind, or will tell you, I hate this job. It looks so boring. The job description is not speaking to me. You're going to learn who the people are that work behind these jobs. You're even going to see names of people, the recruiters that are hiring for these jobs right there, instead of it being hidden on a website. And you're going to be able to connect with recruiters and reinforce your application by sending them a message. I'll show you how to do that. So let's say that you're a neuroscience person. Again, cut, copy, paste your discipline here. And you're doing a very broad search. You're thinking, let me connect, let me look at some companies I heard of. So you say, let me filter by Spark Therapeutics and see if there are any neuroscience jobs, because I want to live in the Philadelphia area. That's where my partner is. So then I can filter further on full-time roles. I can even set my salary expectations. I'm not lowballing myself. And I get a sense of how much these jobs pay. I can leverage that during an interview. So what I'm doing is I'm just exploring the job description. I'm seeing what's interesting to me. This is all basic stuff. I'm sure you've already done that, but I'm going to take it to the next level in a second. Browse, 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 browse. Find interesting jobs, click learn. Again, takes 5 minutes. You could be like laying in bed, just browsing and saving jobs on the top. Okay. And then what do? Then what you do is, let's say you've decided that you want to work for Johnson and Johnson. That's a company that jobs keep coming up for. So in this scenario, did I even like change the slide? Okay, let's say that you're working for Johnson and Johnson. You want to live in like the Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia area, whatever. And all the Johnson and Johnson jobs are showing up. So what do you do next? What I do next is I go to the Johnson and Johnson company page, because I'm interested in their role. I look for more jobs that are associated with them. But most importantly, I go to the people tab in the company, okay? And I add, did anyone who works at Johnson and Johnson also go to Hopkins? Let me see. So yes, I start to filter and I put those keywords, and there's a bunch of people who went to Hopkins that also work at Johnson and Johnson. So I browse through their profiles. Could there be an alumni or a hiring manager or a director level who could point me in the right direction for the job that I'm interested in? I'm a neuroscientist, so let me narrow it down further to neuroscience. Okay, neuroscience, who went to Johns Hopkins University, who works at Johnson and Johnson. So what? Bunch of people show up, because alumni are more likely to respond because there's a connection that you're Hopkins. And I find a bunch of people that show up. So I can reach out to them. Or I can do a reverse search. I can go to the Johns Hopkins University page. And then what I can do is click on the alumni tab. Okay. About, post, jobs, whatever. Click on the alumni tab. And now I can reverse search by company. Who are the Hopkins alumni who work at various companies? Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, so on and so forth. So you can say Johnson and Johnson as an example. And then you narrow it down in the opposite way. You start with the alumni first. There are multiple ways of doing this. And then a bunch of people come up, you still put those keywords such as neuroscience or education or fluid mechanics or whatever. Okay. And now people show up and there's someone I might be able to reach out to. But here's where it could really help if you're at the peak of your job search, connecting with recruiters. Put the word recruiter in the search bar and now use the filter tool. It's loading. Or to filter on people. So every person with the title recruiter shows up. Either it's recruiter or talent acquisition. You can play around with that. And now you add Johnson and Johnson, because let's say you're applying through the company website and you've sent your application, but you want to fortify your interest by reaching out to a recruiter. And the recruiter has to be present in that particular area you're targeting, let's say New Jersey or New York. So now I'm getting recruiters that work at Johnson & Johnson that live in New York and New Jersey, which is my target location. And then I browse through. Then I'm a neuroscientist, so I might want to talk to the life sciences talent acquisition, because on the back end, there are different folks for different levels and roles that they're hiring for. So what would I do then? I'm interested. I know that Daniel will either be the recruiter or will have the connections with the correct recruiter. So I might reach out to Daniel and I might say, "Hi, Daniel, I'm a doctoral student interested in transitioning into scientist position. I'd like to connect with you." And then you send the message. And then after he connects with you, you say, "Thanks for connecting." And you give a little bit of a compliment that's very specific to his LinkedIn profile. I'm interested in requisition number 3415 because he could be recruiting for multiple roles. After seeing the job description, I feel that I could add value to the position given my own background. And I was wondering if you'd be able to either connect me with the hiring team or point me in the right direction. Easy ask, super simple. They appreciate that you even bothered to send a note. What are they going to do first? They're going to jump onto your LinkedIn profile, check out your headline, your experiences, your about section. And then if they think you're a strong candidate because they also want to fill the role and get the commissions and things like that, then they'll respond to you, or they won't respond to you. Either way, you're putting your best foot forward and you're making sure you're strategic about your job search. You're not just applying on a blank website and waiting for all the letters and the rejections and the interview notice to come in. You're just being a little bit more proactive than usual, and LinkedIn's allowing you to do that. So in this scenario, this student is learning about roles. They're making connections with hiring managers and recruiters, and they're developing and fine-tuning their networking skills as they go along. If I tell you my kinds of messages that I used to send people when I was job searching, it's so embarrassing because I have learned along the way what works, how long the message should be, what my ask should be. So there's no way of knowing unless you try it. So I encourage you to give it a shot. Try out a few conversations and then fine-tune your strategy. So at this moment, let me just answer two questions. Do you recommend connecting with the hiring manager if we know and expressing excitement about the job once you apply for the job? Absolutely. No harm, no foul. You're just reaching out to express enthusiasm. Perhaps you're even sending them your resume directly in case it gets lost in the whole applicant tracking system or whatnot. There's nothing to lose if you do that. I'm hiring for a job and I've got plenty of messages. And sometimes I'm able to answer and say, "I'm so sorry, I filled the role." Sometimes I will answer and say, "Oh, I have another job in mind. I'm so sorry, I filled the role." So it's not much of an ask and it doesn't hurt you to do that. What's the difference between apply and easy apply? Great question. Apply means when you click the apply button, it'll take you to the website and then you have to go through their web portal. Easy apply is a feature that some companies and some recruiters might activate that allows you to not have to go through the company's website, but you can upload your resume in one step and hit send. Sometimes it's easy as one step and hit send and it goes into the inbox of the recruiter. Sometimes there'll be some screening questions like visa requirements, or do you have a minimal qualification or certification, all within the LinkedIn platform as well. So easy is just an easier way to apply, whereas apply will take you the long route. Either way is okay. A lot of people don't apply with intentionality when there's that easy apply option. You always have to tailor your resume, your cover letter, your approach to every job that you apply for. Just because it's easy apply doesn't mean it's going to be an easy process. So if you're at your peak of your job search, let the jobs also come to you, because LinkedIn has the open to sign. And so you can specify in your open to sign, because we have a regular person LinkedIn profile, recruiters have their own LinkedIn profile. And so when they put in keywords, let's say fluid mechanics or molecular biology, when they put in the word, when they're recruiting for candidates, you want your profile to show up. So you can specify those words in your open to sign. Oftentimes people have the green banner around their profile picture, which means they're publicly open to work, but you don't have to. You can always make it very private so that no one knows you're looking for a job except for the recruiters who have recruiter profile. So that's another feature that you have as well. At this point, let me pause and say, when you are reaching out to people on LinkedIn, make your ask of someone small and easily executable. Oftentimes, the disconnect comes where someone sends me a resume and says, please review my resume. And I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know which job. We haven't even introduced ourselves. It's not going to work because I don't have time. Ask it in a very simple and easy way. Be respectful of time if you're having informational interviews, and know that sometimes people are busy. It's nothing personal. And so work with those boundaries, your boundaries included. Follow-ups are appreciated, but don't follow up every week. People will then disconnect connections from you. If they don't respond after 2 follow-ups, just move on to someone else. Sometimes things take time to materialize. My conversations that I had 4 years ago might only yield some results 4 years later. That's okay, because a career is evolving and dynamic and non-linear. And one thing that I made a rule with myself is that if I'm going to use any kind of social media, including LinkedIn, I'm going to use it to my authentic levels. If I'm going to say something, it's going to be organic, it's going to be authentic, and it's going to be like strategic in sometimes, but I'm not going to use it just because I have to use it. So again, you have to, work within your comfortability level as well. My greatest conversation I ever had with one of our PhD students was, they sent me a text and they fought me on LinkedIn for a year. This was in 2020, 2021. They're like, I'm just an introvert. I cannot do LinkedIn. And so we devised a strategy where they would just do it. They wouldn't say anything on LinkedIn, but they would talk to people via DMs. And then he sent a message saying, I got a job, except for BioMarin, everything else was through network. 2 of the positions, including Johnson & Johnson, were not even advertised when I got the job. And I said, wow, from a guy who hated networking. So sometimes when you have these conversations and they're impressed by you, there are abilities for folks to push you in faster for a particular job or create positions for you. So I don't think like we don't have power in the job search process just because we're students and postdocs. I think we can articulate who we are, the skills that we've built up, the university that we go, the experience that we have, the unique to us, and we can use this as a tool to leverage it. And like really last scenario is, because someone asked me, is I'm a PhD student or postdoc. I have a complete LinkedIn profile. I am leveraging it. I found a job. I'm finding a job, but I want to share my content. I have lots to say. Thought leadership. I know a lot about AI. I know a lot about the use of machine learning, but I want to say it out aloud. And so I would say, you can do that. You can post, I'm happy to announce stories. You can share a personal story if you feel it's a safe environment to do so. You can post a controversial take. Again, safety is important. Power dynamics are at play. So you can post opinions or debates and things like that. Be mindful, because once you do, it's out there in the virtual world. You can teach a skill. You can spotlight other people, your friends. You can commend them. Do what's comfortable for you. Be yourself and offer value. Okay. So with that being said, I just want to check in with you. I wanted to start the session with 3 goals: reduce the mystery fear of using LinkedIn, 2, create awareness around how to use the key essentials of the platform, and 3, showcase its value in career building, communication, and personal branding. So I hope I've been able to do that. I want to give you time for questions. And what I'm going to send you is a LinkedIn guidebook that has example scripts and things like that that I've created. I'll send you this video and I'll send you the slides as well, so you can see and extract some information that might be relevant to your own job search. Okay, Let me stop share and answer questions at this point. I have also something on informational interviews. It's a short 6-minute video for those of you who are early in the platform, using the platform as well. I'll share that with you. Okay, let me answer a couple of questions. Is there a benefit using premium, and when is the best time to use it? Great question. I see a benefit in using LinkedIn Premium when I'm at the peak of my job search. So I always use it first for the trial period because it gives me metrics for a particular job. Let's say I'm applying to a job that's very popular, like a Amazon role, an engineer role or whatnot. I can see with premium that there's 3,000 applicants, which means my regular strategy of applying for the job through the website's not going to work. I need to fortify my application by connecting to recruiter. I probably have to do a little bit more in my job search strategy when I see that there's 3,000 people. I can also see from premium what their titles are. Like, do they have a PhD? Are they master's level? Are they bachelor's level? Premium also allows me to see who's on my profile. Let's say I'm on my job search and the recruiter's on my profile, then I get a little bit of anxiety goes away that they're checking me out. So in that way, I have found it advantageous because it gives you some metrics. But I don't see, like, if you don't have it, it's not going to make or break your job search either. It just takes away some of my anxiety in the job search because I have a little bit more control over some of those metrics. Oh, where is everyone? Okay. Some fields use domain-specific platforms for sharing or hosting stuff. For example, Twitter for scientists or GitHub for people doing software programming. Is there a way in LinkedIn to include your link tree about other platforms you are on? You can link your website, your personal website on LinkedIn. You can also, in the featured section, you can put links. So if you want to cross-link to GitHub and you cross-link to Twitter, you can use the featured section to do that. Yes, you can. And your LinkedIn should always be, I'll take this opportunity to share, even though we're not talking about resumes. LinkedIn can be on top of your resume contact information. So your resume will have your name, your phone number, then put your GitHub link, put your LinkedIn URL, and then cross-link because they are going to check out your LinkedIn if they are avid LinkedIn users, which in today's world, everyone pretty much is on LinkedIn. When messaging recruiters, how soon should we ask for coffee chats? Um, Not, I mean, if it's a recruiter, if it's anybody but a recruiter, anytime. If it's a recruiter, remember that recruiters are looking to recruit for a position. Sometimes they are looking for immediate recruits, like 3 months, 6 months. Sometimes, like in consulting, you can get a job a year in advance and start a year later. So I wouldn't like do extensive coffee chats unless I'm at my peak of my job search. So let's say like I'm 6 months within my job search, then I think it's okay to have those kinds of coffee chats. If it's an informational interview, anytime. If you're first year today, you can do an informational interview. If you're a seventh year, you can have an informational interview today. I do it all the time. What's the best etiquette for handling LinkedIn messages from recruiters? Is it okay to ignore the ones we're not interested in, or do you think it's important to always reply? For someone who's seen all sorts of scenarios in life, I always reply because a recruiter working right now for this company is probably going to change jobs in the next 2 years and be coincidentally the recruiter for the company you want to work at. So it's always nice to say, thanks so much. This doesn't fit into my interest right now, but I'd be happy to stay abreast and connect with you on LinkedIn. I think it's nice to reply because we're playing the long, I hate to say it, long game, but we are thinking of the long-term strategy when we're building connections. So it's not that transactional. So just reply 2 sentences. You're good. How much detail should we include under roles outlined in our profiles? Should it read similar to a resume, or is the idea for it to be a snapshot? Do you suggest our profiles to always be tailored for the jobs we're looking for? I suggest tailoring, correct? Yes, because let's say I'm a biomedical scientist by training and I work in education now. So I had to tailor my entire LinkedIn to remove, not completely remove, but to reduce the amount of scientific jargon and then pivot into everything student facing. So you do want to tailor for the jobs you're looking for and you want to create that balance. The details, I would say, depends on the stage that you're in. If you're a PhD student, it's completely okay to cut copy paste of whatever you have in your resume and put that in your LinkedIn, since you don't have prior work experience. But as you build work experience, let's say I'm 7 years, 6 years out of my postdoc now, I have taken away the long bullet points because I've gained a lot of bullet points and experiences from on my resume, and I've created a snapshot of just my key accomplishments. So if you're early on and you have a 2-page resume, it's okay to put that in your LinkedIn. But as you build up more experiences, it makes no sense to have a very long LinkedIn. And that case, you can create a short paragraph. LinkedIn seems great for profit roles, but is it useful for government positions? Example with the CDC. If so, how can we make the most of it? So you see all sorts of roles on LinkedIn, government roles, NIH, FDA, CDC, and even university postdoc roles. So people use multiple platforms to post their jobs. Like at the back end, if I'm posting a job, I'll tell the recruiter, please post on Indeed, please post on LinkedIn, and also inside higher ed. I might post in all these different places. So definitely don't eliminate it if you want to work in government jobs. But if you are working for the CDC, there's going to be two options that's going to happen. One is the role at the CDC is a contract job, which means a contracting agency is putting people in government. And two, it's a US citizen job. So it's going to be, you have to apply through USA jobs. And that's the only avenue for a federal position. So if it's USA jobs, you have to go through the portal, but at least you're being made aware of the USA jobs through LinkedIn. And then if it's a contractor job, you might be able to apply through LinkedIn. So two different avenues to get to the CDC. So you can still make the most of it. Is it even worth trying to network with someone at an organization? Oh, when so often the guidance is all hiring is through USA jobs, just apply there. Yes, the networking component has nothing to do with USA jobs, because the networking component, these people are going to be your future colleagues. You can always inquire if you really like the CDC. If they like the CDC, you can always have a conversation with them about the culture, things like that. So the two things are disparate. Networking can still be done on LinkedIn, even if you're working on your USA jobs application. These are just conversations with humans. So I would still use it. No worries. Any other question?
Yeah, hi Roshni. I
Hi.
really appreciated you sharing that perspective of recruiters moving between companies. I was wondering what you might think of as like a good wording for declining a job. Like if you, I mean, not a job, but if a recruiter reaches out and you're not interested in the position, what do you think is a good way to word it?
Yeah, I've done it. At the moment I realized I wasn't going to industry, I've said, I've had a moment to reflect on my career aspirations. And at the moment, this role doesn't fit in with those aspirations. But I'd love to be connected and be in touch with any other opportunities that might be more of a fit. I'll word it properly for you, like when I send you the resources, but that's the essence of it.
That's
It's
great.
just not
Thank you.
fit right now. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if there are no more questions, oh, there's one. How can I signal in my profile that I'm open to a variety of opportunities, even if that means pivoting? Use the summary section of your LinkedIn to articulate that. Use the summary section, and in your open to work sign, you can add multiple different jobs and industries in your open to work settings. You can also say that there's a way to say that in your LinkedIn headline, where you first introduce who you are, what your value proposition is, and then you can say it very frankly, looking to pivot into an industry where I can apply my so-and-so skills. So it could be, the industry could be vague, but your skills, you could hone in on that and articulate that you'd like to apply the skills that you've built up as a humanist in medieval literature to education. So you could say that in your summary section as a story, you can say it in your headline, and you can also say that in your open to work sign. You're welcome. I'll send you more stuff after this. So for those of you who took the time to come for the live session, thank you so much. I'll follow up with more information shortly. Thank you all. You're welcome.